Welcome to Why Not Both. My name is Pam Shaffer, and I'm a musician and therapist in Los Angeles. Thank you so much to Under the Radar magazine for hosting this season of my podcast. I'm really excited to be interviewing a bunch of musicians and artists about how their multiple passions inform their identity. This week's episode is with Kate Nash, who is absolutely fantastic, so I'm really excited to share it with you. She very graciously came to my friend's house in Silver Lake, where we often co-work. So in this episode, you'll get to hear basically what it's like hanging out in the living room with me, my friends, and Kate Nash. If you like this episode and want to hear more, please make sure to like and subscribe to us on your preferred podcast platform and check us out on social media. We are at WNB the podcast on Instagram and on Twitter. Thanks again and hope you enjoy the interview. Full moon?
Yeah, last full moon of the decade. 12/12 on the 12th of the 12th.
So is that why everyone's going bonkers?
12 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah. Full moon in January.
Yeah. That's why everything's extra zesty.
Yeah.
Amazing. / terrifying.
Yeah.
Okay. We're all good. On that note, welcome to Why Not Both.
Hi.
We are here with Kate Nash.
I'm here.
You are here.
I'm here.
Thank you so much for coming out to Silver Lake.
Oh, thanks for having me.
To our cozy co-work spot.
It's so cute here.
Oh, thank you. So the first question that I ask everyone always is, what do you do? And is there a better question to ask you?
I'm a musician and an actress. What do you do is such a weird question, isn't it? Because I feel like when I'm out in a social situation and someone asks, what do you do?
Yeah.
It feels really natural to want to ask someone that because you're interested. But when you get asked it, there's times when it can almost feel like you're being attacked. I'm like, well, I blah, 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 and I've been doing this, and you feel really defensive and insecure and like you don't do enough.
Yes.
So it's a weird question.
Yeah, because that's interesting that you bring up that defensive feeling, because I tend to feel like defensive and also like, how much do they really want to know? Like, you're like, how much do I reveal? Do I only talk about
it like causes an existential crisis really quickly. What do you do? You're like,
So basically the start of the podcast is a twirl into the abyss.
Yeah, perfect. That's how I like to start every podcast.
You're like, I'm glad I'm in this living room. Now we're staring at the abyss.
Yes. Let's jump into the abyss.
Exactly. What might be a better question to ask? Like, if someone is approaching you?
I don't know. How's it going?
Have you been?
I don't know. Like, what I don't know.
I sometimes ask people, I guess in real life, I'll ask people like, oh, like, what does your day usually look like?
Right. That's a good way.
That way I take less pressure off so someone doesn't have to
feel like they're trying to prove something.
Yeah, or have it be about like productivity or like something like that.
I think, I'm trying to think, like, because I did notice that in myself that I like to ask, because I also, there's a weird thing, you almost feel rude if you don't say, oh, what do you do? Like, because it's almost like you're not interested in them if you don't ask. But right. Because I know how it makes me feel, sometimes I try to avoid it. And I feel like I try to like, you know, build the conversation around something else that's a distraction. And like, we might get around to that, but I don't want it to be the first thing I ask.
Well, and also sometimes I find that you might have more in common with someone that you might initially think. Like if someone says to me like, oh, I work in accounting.
I'm a systems analyst. You're like,
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, that's my dad's job actually.
What is that?
What
do you do?
Coding. It's like he looks at his computer screen looks like the Matrix to me. I don't know what it really does. It literally is like that.
Like, what does it look like right now? Like, I know that you worked on a lot of stuff musically, obviously. What's your latest music that you are working on?
I'm working on a new album.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just made like evil fingers. I'm like, yeah, yes.
I'm actually really excited about it because I recorded it with my guitarist, Linda Barato, who's an Italian guitarist, and she is like the best guitarist in the world. I think she's amazing. She's got the best energy. I mean, like, both one of the best people I've ever met and one of the most talented. She's just like a total shredder. She's so fun to play with. She just explodes with energy. Like,
oh my
literally, she can't contain. She can't sit in quiet. She can't sit there and be quiet. If you sit and there's no noise, she's like, noise, what's happening? Bah! And like needs to like be,
what a brilliant person to be on stage with or in the studio, because they're constantly like,
yeah, she's just
powering
giving
you up.
She's powering up. She is like a huge fucking, I don't know, she's like a gigantic amp.
Is she producing the album with you, or you were like?
So we wanted to. We started actually. I was trying to finish this song, and I FaceTimed her, and I was like, "Can you just play this on guitar?" Because I wanted to play with someone and sing along and kind of hear her play it, and then be able to like build it with her. And so we were FaceTiming, and I was like, "I have an idea. I think you should come out," because she's in London. So I think you should come out to LA, stay with me for like 10 days, and we'll just like we'll make an album.
Nice.
In 10 days and just have loads of fun. And because I wanted to do something that wasn't... My last record took so long to make because I had a terrible experience with a manager who spent all my money. And I just got stuck in this period of... in the abyss. Where what do you do was a terrifying question. And it just took a really long time to like clamber out of it. And I guess it was about 4 years really of being stuck, not touring, not being able to release anything, being very lost, having no confidence.
And having someone take advantage of you like that.
Oh my God. The music industry is very exploitative in my experience. Yeah. And this is unfortunately a very common thing. It happens to a lot of people. Wow. Which sucks. But I did a Kickstarter and I got my confidence back. I got Glow. I got 222% funded on Kickstarter. I toured. I like kind of,
So the
rose
fans
like
were
the
actually
phoenix.
there. Like the fans were probably like, "Where'd you go? What happened?"
Oh yeah, and there's actually a documentary that just has been screening at festivals and was on BBC iPlayer called "Underestimate the Girl," and it's about those years.
Wow.
Because these women. The beginning of 2014, when I moved here, these women had heard about my show at Coachella through a mutual hairdresser. This is how random.
Welcome to LA.
Yeah. And they said they wanted to shoot with me. And I said, okay. I was just saying yes to things. Right. And then that was like April or something. Or May, it was after Coachella. So whenever that would be after Coachella. And then it was December that year when I found out that stuff was going on. So they were shooting with me throughout. And then we carried on shooting until a couple of years ago.
That's so vulnerable also to be able to have people documenting that part of your life.
I think it almost helped because it gave me purpose because I had nothing else stable. And it was like, I'm making this story. Right. I don't know what the end of the story is, and I hope it's a happy ending.
Because you're in the middle of the story.
But I'm gonna like expose this and talk about it, and it gave me something sort of like righteous to hold on to. So it helped a little bit.
That sounds to at least anchor you during your experience like that. Oh my God.
So why did I talk about that? I can't remember.
Because that's the nature of this podcast.
What were we talking about? I was on some journey.
We were on the journey of music, and then you were talking about your new album, and then you talked about the documentary, which I really want everyone to know about too.
So the reason I said that is because I just have had this long experience of one album over 4 years, and I just wanted to do something really fun, low-key, not think about release and money and promotion and how's it going to be received and who's going to release it and blah, blah, blah. I was like, I just want to be in our bedroom and write an album and just have a laugh and do music because we love it and because we love playing together. Well, that's why you probably started
playing music, wasn't it? To be like, if only I could strategize an album.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I love doing that.
Exactly. Let me create a pitch deck for this album.
Exactly. So then you'd be like a marketer as
exactly.
To like... If you were like, I play the guitar, but my real passion is pitch decks. So what happened? So she came out.
And we just did it. We just hung out with me and Linda and my dog Stella. And we just like played. So we decided I was going to produce it and she was going to engineer. Neither of us. I produced one album in 2010 with a lot of help from an engineer. But it was really like my first time fully being in control of everything. And I don't really know what I'm doing. And Linda has been doing bits of engineering, but again, it was this whole attitude of we don't really know what we're doing, so that's why we're going to take on these roles. And our motto was "fuck it, who cares?"
And I'm so glad you said that, because I talked to other female musicians and producers that for so long, despite the fact that we actually kind of are producing and engineering our stuff, we don't own it.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, I kind of don't know. Whereas then sometimes you step into a room with a man who's like, I'm a producer.
Yeah.
I've watched a tutorial in Ableton.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he's like, I'm a producer now. And you're like,
Exactly.
wait, what?
And we did have to watch those really boring YouTube videos.
Oh, yeah,
when
they
things
start...
go wrong, you're like, oh, because they're like, okay, so now let's open Logic, and when you pull up this, you can see blah blah, and you're like, kill me.
Exactly, and you have to full screen it because you're like, which menu are they going into?
You have to like listen to the whole thing because you don't know when your bit of information is going to come up, so you're like,
I usually have it. I kid you not, I have it queued on the iPad, so then I can look at the computer. But I do the same thing where I'm like, focus, Shaffer, just focus. It's gonna get to you.
It's gonna be okay.
You can do this.
You're gonna get through this. You will not die of boredom.
That's so exciting though. So is that
so we built
done?
that together, and then which was so fun. We built out like 10 songs in 10 days. Then it was like, that was before the summer. Then over the summer I shot a movie and was touring, so it was very busy and like very back and forth. And so it all kind of got put on hold, and then I came back and have just been finishing it, and it's like done. So I'm really excited about it.
Yes.
So I'm kind of coming up with like a fun like idea for release, which now I'm like getting heavily involved in the creative process of like, how am I going to like release this and make it fun and not think about playlists and how many likes my Instagram has and how many people like I just don't care anymore. I don't care. It's fun, like whatever. I can't.
I think also from what you've said, you've proven that you connect with people. Like, people were there to catch you, and people were like, we feel what you're doing. We're going to come and help you.
Yeah, and you know, like, I have to just trust that and just go with it and know that I think in your career there's going to be these moments of where you feel actual success, and then a lot of it is just floating in the abyss and thinking, I don't know how I'm doing. Okay.
Taking a solid...
Hopefully it's fine.
Shrug?
Yeah. Sometimes it's really fun. Yeah, and I think that's why playing live is so great, because when you're playing live, you feel this tangible thing, and live music is where you can see your audience right in front of you.
Exactly. You get immediate
you're having
feedback.
An effect on people because you physically see it, because they come up to you afterwards, they tell you, they buy your merch, they've bought a ticket to be there.
Exactly.
They're like screaming and cheering and happy, or listening intently and like sharing, and I think that when you tour, you feel, although you feel tired and a wreck in many ways, you feel solid and happy, and like you're on a train that's actually on a track.
Yes.
Whereas the rest of the time you're just on a train that's like
kind of wibbly train.
What's happening? Is this a train?
Are we in the channel?
Yeah.
It's very dark.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh wait, this is a cardboard box, and this isn't a train at all. Let me get out of this. Why have I been in here?
Why am I in this
Why
box?
didn't I tell me this was not a train? Damn.
Has wheels painted
Can't
on
believe
the
that
side.
happened again.
Happens every other Tuesday. It's terrible.
Yeah.
I was wondering, I was like, so you get that immediate feedback with like live music. When you're doing acting, how best do you get feedback for that? Because that's like a whole other area of your life.
Yeah. I think it's a different experience, and I receive it all in a different way. Music is very instant when you're doing a live show, and I am to go back to the train, I'm the train driver. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes I use a pie. Like when I'm doing music, I'm the baker of the pie. I'm making my pie.
Got it.
I'm putting everything
you
together.
You own the pie shop.
I'm like, okay, I've got to make this pie. And then when I'm acting, I'm like an ingredient in the pie. And someone else is making the pie, and I get to be the cherry filling, or like, some flour or whatever it is.
Zesty rhubarb in there.
Baking powder.
I don't know why I just called it zesty rhubarb.
Or zesty rhubarb.
My
alter ego, zesty rhubarb.
That sounds like one of those memes where you have to like combine like an adjective and like a bizarre herb.
I like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Like having ADHD. Great. Fantastic.
So I'm zesty rhubarb.
Yes. We're going to zesty rhubarb. She's a wonderful ingredient in any production. That's so cool, though, that you get to bring, like, other people's visions to life in that way.
And you do a lot of, like, it almost feels studious because a lot of it is reading and writing and, you know, creating things by yourself that no one is ever going to know about. Right. You know, that's kind of the fun thing about acting is the things that you put into your character can be completely secret.
Ooh. And
you know, you've been studying this human and you're studying people essentially, and I just find that really fascinating and satisfying.
Because then that person has their own inner world that we get to see kind of in dialogue.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah. But there could be so much created behind that you don't know about, and so it's kind of this weird like nooky, like booky, like study feeling, which I really like too. And then I'm so lucky because I work on a show where there's 15 women who do actually give you response and support and excitement about performance. You know, when we're on set with Glow, if people do something, everyone's like, that was awesome. That was so funny. You're like, oh.
You're like, yes.
Yeah, they're like, cut. And everyone's like, that was so good. Like, it's so...
That's
supportive.
So heartening to know, because it's like,
yeah.
I, speaking of ADHD, will sometimes watch television, but sometimes forget it's on and wander away. Whereas when I was like, oh, I'm going to be interviewing Kate.
Yeah.
I should watch Glow.
Yeah.
I actually, like, it made me sit and watch it. And I think that might be why, is that when I was watching the interpersonal dynamics of the characters, you can tell that people do have that inner world going on. Because sometimes if you're watching something where people are either not playing to a stereotype, that's the wrong way to put it, but it's like playing to a type or playing kind of shallow, you're kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Whereas that was really gripping because there's so much of the characters that's like not said.
Yeah.
They're like, oh I'm going to pay attention.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think everyone is so talented on the show and brings these surprising things to the table. And also we learned to wrestle together. So we'd already been in each other's crotches 100 times. And that's
like one does.
Unusual. And I think that it really, you can see that.
It's a team building
you
exercise.
You can see how much time we've spent in each other's crotches.
Well, because you have to...
I like to think.
And now, another abyss.
A different kind of abyss.
A different kind of abyss. A zesty rhubarb. It's so like, because the physical rapport for that role, you really do have to be like...
You trust each other.
In each other and trust each other because you're literally... That's also interesting that the starting episodes are that you're, quote, learning to wrestle.
Yeah.
After you've already, quote, learned to wrestle.
We had to go back. They
like,
told us we had to, for the first episode, kind of erase some of the stuff that we'd learned for the physical performances so that we were worse because we'd gotten good by it. We did a month's training.
Oh, so that way you had to, well, that's
we had
actually...
to go back a little bit.
That's honestly good because then you'd learn how to fall and how to things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that bond has just carried us there's something special, so special about that physical bond.
Yeah.
You know, doing stuff that we didn't know how to do, that we fail at, that we could hurt ourselves doing, that we have to protect each other during, quite seriously. I think that creates something really special. And I know that's really unique. You know, that's not what I'm going to get on every single thing I work on.
Especially such like an ensemble cast where it's like then everyone really gets to bond like that.
The truest ensemble. Some might say we should have won a couple of awards.
One might...
As an ensemble.
Say.
One might wonder who has been nominated for Best Ensemble this year and ask why. Not me, but...
Why not the ensemble? Look, I love
we are a fucking ensemble, all right? We learned to wrestle. 15 women. One was a professional wrestler who has helped us. Like, we've bonded together. The rest of us didn't know. Kira never acted. We're a fucking ensemble. We are the ensemble.
I wish everyone could see the intensity of the whoosh, you're in it to win it right now.
I just think fuck everyone else.
The mic just melted.
Are awesome.
like I said, I think you're awesome. I will literally forget that a television is on and walk into another room, and this actually had me. I was sitting on this very couch.
You can't ignore something that iconic. I mean.
I was just like, I was sitting here and I found myself, I was like, wow, I am sitting through multiple episodes.
That's so cool. They're also I think really well made because they're 30 minutes, but it doesn't feel, you can watch it really easily and quickly, but there's depth in every episode. You know, it's not rushed and like cheap. It's still so much depth, even though we have short episodes, which I think
feels like it always,
amazing.
because I watched most of the first season and it felt like it hit different beats and it hit them at the right pacing, but at the end you still wanted to learn more. You weren't like, oh, it's resolved, I don't have to go on to the next one. You're like, oh, that did hit those points, but I'm curious about what happens next. Gonna happen now? Exactly.
Oh, me too.
I was just like, that's so much fun, because then like, was this the first time you've acted on something where you did get to kind of be with that character for so long?
100%. It's like I've only done a couple of indie things before.
Yeah.
Rhonda's the first character I've really developed and fit into her skin so comfortably and become. And she's positively impacted my life. And I've been able to be with her for 3 going on 4 years. So that's so cool. And I think one of the best experiences you could hope to have as an actor is develop a character for that long and like, you know, and be enjoying it so much.
I was just thinking, it was like, because I mean, at least writing music, I'm sure it comes from different parts of yourself and your experience, but acting like that, it's like you get to hang out with your own like bestie, but your bestie's also you. It's
so weird because psychologically it's taught me some stuff that I didn't realize, that, you know, Rhonda's this very, she doesn't think like me in many ways, and she's freer than me in some ways. And I feel like, but that is also me. You know what I mean? Because I'm playing her and I've decided that and I commit to that. And I remember when I did my first nude scene, it was this really interesting experience because I was so nervous about doing it. Yeah. And then, but I really wanted to do it because I thought it was so cool that it was just girls changing. I mean, girls change in front of each other all the time. It's very normal. Exactly. It's how girls act, and I loved what it was between Carmen and Rhonda and how she'd never had girls change in front of her before and stuff. And they like laughed and had this like little friendship moment that their friendship like builds on throughout the show. Yeah. And I was so nervous to do it. And then as soon as action, I was like, I'm Rhonda. I cannot feel any nerves, because Rhonda wouldn't, because she's just with her friend, and you get into the zone and I'm like, okay, I'm acting. I'm
you're like, I'm here.
I'm gonna be Rhonda. As soon as it's action, there's no nerves. I'm just Rhonda. And it's like action. It was like Rhonda. And I did the scene, and it was like cut, and I was like, oh my god.
And you're like, oh no, okay again.
I'm like, oh, my breasts are out in front of all these people.
They've escaped.
Oh god.
Collect them back in.
Yeah, and I'm quite like, I feel very free like that in front of my friends and everything, but it's it's quite weird doing it in front of a whole crew.
Well, because in some ways, it's like once that like spell is broken, you realize where you are, and you're like, train box?
Yeah.
This was the box.
Yeah. But it just made me realize how you can actually choose to feel anxiety and nerves, and you can choose not to. You can choose to be confident.
Mm-hmm. Had you struggled with feeling that before, like in other settings?
Yeah, loads of times in my life I feel like that, and I just thought that's so fucking crazy that I could be really, really nervous and then want and choose to commit so much to my character, who would not feel nervous and just doesn't in that moment. So I become Rhonda. But that's me also controlling that. So I like thought, wow, what else can I use that? How can I apply that? There's these things that make me anxious. How do I get into like the Rhonda state of mind that I can commit to for my role as Kate when I want to go into a room confidently, or I want to approach something confidently?
To have that,
because I actually have that power, and I didn't know I could switch that button on. Yeah. So it's quite mind-blowing.
And to feel that, because someone could tell that to you, like, cognitively. They could say to you, oh, don't be anxious. But once you have that...
Yeah, you're like, cool.
Yeah, you're like,
thanks
great,
for that advice.
Yeah, I'll go do some yoga.
Yeah. But then I was like, well, Rhonda's not anxious, and I'm like, bang on. Like, it's like a trick of the mind. I think we as humans, we kind of do like being tricked into doing things. It's kind of easier. Mm-hmm. So if you can find your own healthy tricks...
Yes, because
there's many unhealthy ones that we could also that I have gotten caught up in before, I think. But
well, and having, I was gonna say, it sounds like going through this experience helped you find a healthy way to do it, to tap into that visceral feeling of almost an altered state where you were able to emotionally experience it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, that's fascinating. Like, did you ever feel anxious, like when you were performing as a musician before? Are you excited when you're...
I get anxious before every single gig. I get really, really scared. And I used to be scared on stage a bit, but I'm at the point, and have been for a while, where now I just get insane nerves before. But as soon as I walk out, it's I'm in the zone. And I think it's the adrenaline rush, you know. I trust that it is, but still every time I say, I can't believe it, I'm so nervous. It's so weird. I've done this 1,000 times. Why am I nervous? And then I walk out and I'm like...
You're like, hello.
Yeah, and it feels really natural. But I think it's all part of the thing, you know. It's all part of the prep to go on.
Well, I think because you have to...
Rush.
Yeah, because in order to perform, you have to tap into so much of yourself. You have to be larger than yourself.
Yeah. So, and you have all this energy like waiting to be released that's kind of flying around like fairies in your chest. You're like, oh my god, I'm gonna get on now. Get me on.
I like that your little hairband was like, it's like little,
the fairies are in there.
Hair 10A just going, Where I was curious, I was like, where has Rhonda's new superpower like helped you out? I was just like, that sounds really useful to know that you're like, I can go in and like be confident.
I think honestly wrestling as well is part of that, and being around all these women that have been so supportive, and we lift each other up so much. And I think we kind of challenge each other in different ways, and I've just learnt to accept all these differences on set around each other for like 14 hours a day. And I think I definitely carry a different level of confidence because of that, about, you know, what I'm doing and who I am, and that I can do these things that I never thought I could do. These wrestling moves. I never thought I would be able to do that stuff.
I was going to say, it's such an unusual role in that way, that not only does it have like, the emotional depth, and as we talked about, the ensemble depth.
Best ensemble depth.
But it also has such physicality to it. Like, had you been involved that much in athletics before?
No, not at all. Not at all. I've always been like freakishly strong. My granddad was a boxer, and he was always really proud that I could pick up like gigantic bags of compost and stuff that my sisters couldn't. And my mum would like get me to go to the garden centre and help her carry stuff home.
You're like, so I got the freakish strength.
Yeah, so I had the freakish strength. But no, I'd never been athletic. I never felt like I was athletic. It made me kind of, I just never really got into it at school. I did a bit of netball, I did some swimming, but I was never a serious athlete. And I think that once you realise that you can be these things, even if you think, oh, I can't be that, I could never do that, I don't have the body type, I haven't got the fitness, I haven't got that. You can do so much more than you think.
Right.
Because I never thought I'd be fucking like flipping and wrestling. I think, how old was I when I started? Like 28, 20, something like that. 28, I think I was 28 when I started. And, you know, I learnt to do that at 28, having never done it before. Wow. Or 29, I can't remember how old I was when I started.
Well, yeah, and that's when people, I feel like, start to kind of limit themselves. Like, once we start to get
you
towards
start
our
thinking,
30s,
I'm done with that. And all these stupid things that society tell you that you have to be doing by this age, or you can't do because you haven't done that, and you just kind of assume, well, if I was going to be flipping, I'd have started doing it when I was 7. I'd have flipped by now. I'm never going to flip. And, like, I'm telling you, you could probably flip tomorrow if you...
See, there's a car flipping right now.
If you put in a few weeks practice, you could flip. Late in life flippings. Okay, so in a way it makes me think of the album, because, you know, I could approach that thinking, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'll figure it out.
There you
go. I've had this conversation with Chavo Guerrero, who's a world famous wrestler, who's one of the wrestlers that, well, he's the wrestler that teaches us how to wrestle alongside our these two incredible stunt women. And Chavo says that, you know, because he's always wrestled, he kind of like learns how to figure this stuff out, that he thinks, oh, I don't know how to do that, and then proves that he can do it. So he says, you know, I can apply that to anything. He's like, when something breaks in like the laundry in the house, he'll just like figure out how to fix it, because you actually can figure a lot of this stuff out, you know? And I think that kind of helped me just go into the album and think, and just approach lots of things in life thinking, I can figure this out.
I love that. And especially with then the attitude of like, I can choose something other than anxiety or fear.
Yeah.
That you're like, not only do I have the resource to figure this out, but I don't have to beat myself up about it. I can just do it.
And sometimes you can't do that on your own, you know? The anxiety, fear thing can creep in, and you might need someone to help ground you a little bit. Yeah. To go, okay, like you need to just breathe and stop catastrophizing and panicking and all of that.
And I think there's no shame in that, like owning it and just being like, oh, I need to reach out to someone and actually.
Exactly.
So you were talking about that on this album, you were just like, no, I'm just going to do the thing. And then we were talking about that there's no shame in reaching out for help with said thing.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that sort of went into the album, and me and Linda, we just had loads of fun. I mean, it also was just about getting back to enjoying music. Yeah. Because so much of music now is like frustrating to deal with in terms of I don't know how connected it is to social media and imagery and what you have to put out into the world, and how we all have to pretend we're like the coolest fucking people.
Well, and I love that you did a documentary that showed explicitly that it's like, we are really cool, but also like we're people. Yeah. It's like there's humanity to it.
It's the documentary was really honest, and I was actually quite scared to release it at first, but I'm really glad that it's out, because it does show this kind of huge failure. You know, I'm saying that in like quote
I was going to say, I love your air quotes, because I was like, failure, I don't know. I guess like the way I think about failure is I'm terrified of it, but it's so instructive.
It's just life, isn't it? Like things go tits up sometimes.
Exactly.
That's life. I mean, what are you going to do? You can't really stop that.
Exactly. And so you can either embrace it and make a documentary and have people be like, oh yeah, I'm on team, as opposed to be like, oh no, everything's perfect.
I also wanted to try and change the industry, because it happens so much that I just think there's something really fucked up about the music industry. It's extremely exploitative. There's no HR department. There's no union active for us. You're like, and I think acting has shown me that I am much more protected in that world. You know, I have SAG, I have like HR department, I have people to go to if there's problems, or suddenly this, like, and especially now, you know, in the Me Too movement and Time's Up, there's so much on set to protect the actor, and I think, and obviously I'm sure there's still huge problems, as there is everywhere, but I feel that like it's quite amazing to see direct progress from these movements. And in the music industry, what are you going to do? Who are you going to tell? If your manager fucks you over, you have no one to go to.
That's what I was wondering when you had said that. Like, I was wondering about your personal recourse, and also then that is remarkable. I hadn't thought of it that way, of like, in acting, you do have structure around you, whereas a musician, you're right, it's like, who do you tell? Do you tell press? Do you tell your lawyer? Do you tell, like, who do you... Like,
and especially, I mean, years ago, I only up until the last few years has, like, in any way the victim been taken seriously, and not just, like, even more, like, victimized and ridiculed.
Because also, especially I'd imagine as a female artist, people are like, oh, she's hysterical, she's emotional, she's an artist, she doesn't know what she's talking about.
Yeah. And it's really easy to throw that around about artists, because our lives are so sort of... they're just not structured, and so there can be a lot of, and there's a lot of artists with mental health issues, so there's a lot of vulnerable people, and I think that we need a huge union that actually works for people, because otherwise then it's never going to change. And it's this like nighttime activity, live show, there's drugs, there's alcohol, there's people taking advantage of vulnerable people in lots of different ways, whether it's the promoter or the label or the manager or whoever. And you know, not everybody's guilty. There's plenty of good people out there, but on a whole, most artists that I know have been fucked over by the industry. Yeah. Either in one huge way or multiple times throughout their career. That is most artists that I know.
And I hate that it's like, that's, and as you're speaking of this, I think of other artists I know, and I can't think of one person that hasn't had an experience like that. Yeah. Like yours was extreme, of a manager taking all your money, which is like horrifying. Yeah. But the more you're talking about it, because at first when you brought it up, I was just like, oh gosh, yeah, that's bad. And then I thought about it and I was like, I actually don't know anyone that hasn't
happened.
As I was scanning through my brain, and I was just like, I know that I want to look at the best of things, and so that's probably why, like, I block it out.
Yeah, and where do you go? I mean, who do you tell? Who cares? People don't even want to pay for music anymore. There's little value on what you're producing anyway. Yeah. And if you're not making like huge hits, you have limited people still in it, really. There's diehard fans and people that are passionate about their acts, but there's also a huge culture of, if you don't make this a hit right now, then on your first album you're dropped for the next one.
I was gonna say, then you're dropped and they own your masters.
And I know loads of people that's happened to as well. Or people get their albums shelved or whatever. Like, that's the darkest one.
And then they never see the light of day.
Yeah, and it's like, these cunts get to like sit there in front of this talent and tell them what they like. I remember once having this meeting with this guy, and it was like when I was in sort of this low point. Yeah. And he sat in front of me and he was like, I was having this meeting with him about new music for, you know, his label, and he was a guy who had signed me to my publishing in 2007, and now he worked for this record label. Okay. So I knew him from before, and he said, he sat in front of me and he was like, is this what Kate Nash looks like now? And I was just thinking, like, I don't know what that means. It's kind of like when someone says to you, oh, you wearing that? And you're like, yeah, I'm
gasping because I'm just like, how could someone ever say to you, like, are you the you now? And you're like, of course I'm the me now.
Well, what does it mean? It makes you feel instantly insecure, because they're basically saying, it's like they're saying they don't get it, or they don't like it, or they don't think it's good enough, and they're
or that you were better before, and what happened to you? Was this a decline? Was this a like? Ugh.
And it was this sort of. I almost had to be committed to what I was now, and he's like, "Oh, are you gonna like make? You know, is this it now? Is this what it's gonna be like now?" And I'm like, I don't fucking know what I'm gonna do. And first of all, I don't have to commit to you or anyone permanent. I don't have to promise you anything. Like,
also, he should be honored to have the Kate Nash now.
But it's like these guys are sitting there wanting their paycheck, and they're worried about getting fired because they're not getting anything to work, because people aren't buying music. Right. So the industry's completely reshaped, but it's still the fucking archaic structure which hasn't reformed.
Well, and also it hinges on the artist. So why would they?
It doesn't work. So people keep like skipping from job to job, and ironically, you know, I'm thinking, is this what you look like now? You signed me to my publishing deal. You used to be the head of this publishing company. Now you're working for this record label. And by the way, I didn't sign to him, and he doesn't work for that fucking label anymore anyway.
Because he probably bounced to another job.
And he wouldn't give a fuck if he did sign me and then moved to another job and just left me at the label. And that's what happens to artists. They get signed by someone and then they quit their job. And it's
and then you don't have your connection at the label. And then no one cares where you are, and you get shuffled around.
And they keep telling all these artists, find your sound. And it's like, what does that even mean? It doesn't mean anything. Right. You're just scared, and you want artists to sound literally like other artists so that you can feel like it's a guaranteed hit.
Which is hilarious, because the second you do that, that's when it's not a guaranteed hit.
Right. Although for some sausage factory, some part of the sausage factory does work. But it doesn't work for everyone.
I was going to say, it seems like it works now in kind of that, like, almost like how Spotify created new genres, essentially. Yeah. Where there's, like, that kind of, like, one of my friends dubbed it, like, wallpaper music, that they keep coming up with, like...
I call it, like, pop physique playlists.
Yeah, where it's, genre. Like, it has its role, where that's, like, what plays in the background of a car commercial, or, a spin class, where that's, like, it's the music for that. But the people that are connecting to that aren't connecting to an individual artist. Yeah. Like, that's why I think of, like, Billie Eilish, where it's, like, people are connecting to her because she didn't sound like...
I have a friend who works at a label who found an artist that she thought was so talented, wrote her own songs, was a singer, a great voice, like great talent, obviously, and she brought it to like the head of her label, and he's like, well, you know, she's got a great voice and great songs, but what am I going to do with that? But that's where the industry is. That's one of the biggest record labels. Like, doesn't know what to do with a talented artist who can sing and has good songs, and like now they want to sign YouTube acts and all these different things that, I mean, the industry's just changed so much, and I think the problem is there's no union, and the record labels still rule, and they're based on archaic structures that were like made up in I don't know when, a long time ago.
I was
that
gonna
aren't
say, I mean, the
relevant
structures
now.
aren't matching what's happening, especially in regards to like streaming, in regards to how people value music.
Yeah.
Because I think that people, in some ways, even if they cognitively understand, they might not understand everything that actually goes into music, or how people make money making music, or why that's like a job.
I've tried to be open with fans too, like explaining that, you know, how I can raise 150 grand to make an album, and it doesn't go very far.
Right.
You know, it's like when I'm paying people, I'm paying all the musicians on the record, I'm paying $3 grand per track per producer, $700 for like mixing, $700 for mastering on each track. You times that by 10. Where's that? Then you get $3 grand a month for a publicist. Then it's $3 grand per track if you want to go to radio, which doesn't even guarantee you anything at all. But like you run out of money really fast. Then you have to pay the artist, the photographer, the like music video,
it was like
which everyone does on an
producer.
extreme budget anyway, so no one's really getting paid loads of money anyway. But it's like the money disappears really quickly,
and then much less being able to pay someone to help you promote it so that people actually see what you've made.
Yeah, so it's not like you get 150 grand and then sit there and are really rich. It's like that money disappears because you throw it all back into paying people to like make a record in even a very minimal way.
And I think also people don't understand in regards to that also it's like even paying for your own basic living expenses within that budget, that it's like while you're making this art, you still need to pay rent where you're living. You still need to eat food.
Right, because it's your job.
Yeah, it's literally your job. And it's like, then people don't understand that then if they're streaming the record for, you know, like, because streams don't add up. I love that, like, I got a Spotify check that one time was for like $3. And I look and I was just like, wow, that's like thousands and thousands of plays add to like $3. So
you know what I heard recently?
What?
Sorry, I just interrupted.
Oh my God,
saying.
no, go on.
No, I heard that all the like extra money in Spotify that doesn't get collected by artists that either they haven't been able to find or contact, or you know haven't collected it, at the end of the year it gets given to like the top 10 streaming artists.
They're like, no diss on these
I don't know
artists,
that
but they're like the last people who would need that.
I mean, I haven't fact checked that, but it came from a very reliable source who is like really with it about all that stuff. But there's all these weird like things like that are happening where you're just thinking like, how so many people just can't continue this. It's not sustainable.
Well, and I feel like also then people feel shame when they take on jobs outside of music, especially. Like people feel ashamed of having a day job.
Yeah, I had to take on another job. I worked at Meltdown Comics.
I love
Hollywood.
Meltdown.
Yeah.
I miss Meltdown.
I know, it's so sad that it's gone.
Oh, what did you do at Meltdown?
I worked on a live streaming show that was like a shopping channel for geeks.
Oh my God, that's actually
and
kind
sold
of amazing.
Star Wars jewelry and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
And then I moved in with the guy who was running that because I like ran out of money, and he had he's like, come and live with me, and he was my roommate, and I'm still friends with him now, and he's like one of the people that saved me during that period of time. But yeah, I became friends with all the like Meltdown nerds, and it was really helpful.
The Meltdown community is so lovely.
Yeah, it's so sad that it's gone.
I know.
Yeah.
And I feel like people are ashamed to even like talk about things like that. Like, I'm so glad that you said, yes, I took on another job. Because I think that also like...
And that's in the doc too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Because like you said, people want this illusion in a way, but we can't have the illusion of rock stars anymore if we're not paying rock stars.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
It's like you want an elusive, like, beautiful creature, you have to pay to, like, keep this elusive, beautiful creature alive.
Feed the dragon.
Exactly.
Damn it.
Yep, because people, it's just like, do you think we just live on, like, you know, good wishes and enjoyment? It's like, no. Like,
Yeah.
you have to.
Yeah, there's just a lot of disillusionment with like, actually just this morning I got into an Instagram fight with someone which I don't really do very often, only when someone really catches me at the right moment. Mm-hmm. But I was posting about the election and voting Labour, and this guy posted some comment that was like, oh, you dream chaser, you know, I'm sure you get some tax fiddle thing anyway.
What?
Blah, blah, blah. And I just kind of replied, you know, winding him up and joking back, saying, oh yeah, I play the tax fiddle at every show.
Yeah.
I just play no hands, just through my nose, blah, 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 blah. And then he replied this whole thing saying, yeah, and your parents, I'm sure, voted Tory anyway, and I don't know what you were saying, but kept calling me a dream chaser and saying 99% of dream chasers fail anyway, and sorry, I'm busy, I'll be right back. I just have to go get a coffee off a coffee barista / songwriter who can afford a new Apple Mac but moans that he can't afford a house. And I was like, of course he could, like, yes. Do you know that there are hundreds of thousands of pounds of difference between a laptop and a house? What are you fucking
What
on
are you
about?
on about?
That makes no sense. I hate this argument that having an iPhone and a laptop means you should shut up about not being able to. We can't afford fucking. Not we, but people can't afford houses because they are so fucking, like, what? It doesn't make sense. It's not the same as buying a laptop. And if someone invests in their own fucking art and they're a dream chaser, which by definition, I know this morning, if someone has the courage to, like, chase their dreams,
I was
that's
gonna
fucking
say that's
awesome.
an awesome thing.
Why do
to
you have a problem with
be?
that? And 99% of them fail. What that's no. You're basing that on what? Sorry, what
That
statistic is
person
that?
probably failed at their dream or was not courageous enough to
Right,
pursue
and they're
it.
just a fucking idiot on the internet. That's like part of the whole problem.
Well, well, and that's the thing is like equivocating. There's the other part of that of like the suffering young person, the suffering artist, where it's like, if you're chasing your dream, you have to suffer.
Yeah.
And in some ways, like we already suffer enough.
Everyone, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we need like extra suffering.
The world doesn't need extra suffering, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's like things are hard enough without having to fit into some sort of stereotype of being like, well, I guess if I'm a musician, gotta suffer some more.
Yeah.
And also, like, to be so, in a way, like, I'm trying to think of what would even make someone that uncharitable to others other than just being miserable.
Having a keyboard and sitting behind their own fucking Mac computer. I don't know how they could afford to be on Instagram and live in a home. I mean...
I know, the audacity.
It's so stupid. I just feel like we're in this weird, like, time of, you know, just being dumb and celebrating that and just attacking people for no reason.
Well, and I feel that people attack others.
Cookies.
Eat some cookies.
I need a cookie right now.
Yep.
Just getting like really annoyed at Boris Johnson and freaked out. And I need
You know what? That is.
I need a cookie and an axe.
I'm gonna see if my little dwarf hand can like hack this. Otherwise, oh no, Sam, can I throw this at you?
Oh yeah, go. I'm ready.
I have really bad aim. Ah!
It's weird, like angle.
This is upsetting. Hey! I looked up
The Virgo moon will get. Look at that.
Oh, Nutty's on it. Tearing it with his
Virgo moon.
teeth. You got like feral on there.
I looked up the royalty thing, by the way.
What?
Spotify
Oh.
claimed royalties.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that true?
What it looks like, and this is with the
Thank you, Nutty.
most recent copyright law
Yeah.
that went into effect.
Yeah.
If the royalties haven't been distributed within 3 years,
Right.
then they go to artists determined by market share.
What?
So I guess that, I mean, I the way I read that is in effect what you were saying.
Like
just-
Taylor Swift.
Exactly, depending on how much of, their revenue comes from
And
a
so
certain
many
artist.
people aren't being looked after properly.
Yeah.
So, or they don't know themselves, or if you don't have a manager who's accountable, which so many people don't.
Yeah,
like,
if you don't know your own distribution
or
sites
someone
and
tells
things like
you,
that.
oh yeah, you're getting paid, you're like, cool.
Right.
And then you're not,
Yeah.
3 years later. I mean...
Supposedly there's an institution that they're coming up with, or a body that will regulate this and will be in charge of that, but there's a lot of infighting around who will manage that.
Right.
They're looking for a non-profit to take over, but they're obviously...
But they're a for-profit company, so how would they have a non-profit takeover of
They're
their...
looking for a separate non-profit to kind of arbitrate and manage in terms of like determining who owns this copyright and who will get the royalties and things like that.
Right.
This all comes from like a really cursory research, but
It sounds like a feudal system.
It
Yeah.
really does.
I love the research going on, live research.
Welcome to having an investigative
That's so
journalist
good.
here.
That's
Miss
really
you,
good.
Shmoo.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was wondering also, like, given that the state of the music industry clearly is not working and is exploiting people, what would you want it to look like?
I think there should be, like, everyone should be audited regularly, all the time. Record labels, publishing companies, and managers. And if they're not on like this official list that agree to be audited by an outside body every year, then no one signs with them or works with them because they're not trustworthy and they're obviously just going to screw people over.
This fills my heart.
That's what should happen because it would stop so much. Like so many managers like steal. Record labels resist paying people for as long as possible. I have struggled to get like big chunks of money that I earned years ago out of like multiple companies before.
That's horrible. So then do you have to pursue them or send a lawyer after them?
My accountant pursuing them for a year, you know, like that kind of thing. Like and I think a lot of people end up giving up, or it's obviously something that works.
Right.
Not most, but a lot of people, I suppose, if you don't have an accountant or if you don't, you know.
Well, it takes resource to be able to pursue that resource.
Exactly.
Because you have to have the time, the tenacity,
the money
to do it.
And I think that if everyone gets audited, you know, they have to be this like accountable, transparent company or body or person or whatever company. And if they don't agree to be on it, it becomes like an official list of like reputable people in the industry. Because there isn't that.
I was going to say, because like...
It's all word of mouth or just like what already exists. And they've already screwed over so many people.
Well, and that's what happens. I don't know if this happens amongst your circle, but amongst like my circle of musicians, if someone reaches out to us, whether for production, collaboration, anything, we'll all kind of check in with each other and be like, oh, do you know this person? Have you worked with them before? What's your experience been? Yeah. Especially when men reach out in regards to production work, especially because then you're like, oh, I'm going to be alone in a room with this person. Yeah. Like you want to kind of get reference.
You want to know if you need to bring your axe or not.
Exactly. You're like, is this an axe-friendly writing session? Yeah. Is every session an axe-friendly writing session? Like... And having that in regards to the business, like, because people do get exploited, and I think you're very right that then being in the acting world, I hadn't thought of that connection, but it would show you that there are systems in place to keep you from being exploited, at least financially.
And an HR department, someone you can go to and you have a serious issue that could help you source a lawyer if you don't have a lawyer, if you can't afford a lawyer, that can help you source, you know, like I think some kind of outside body that just is like the trusted source for a musician that they go to and they go, this is my problem, this is what I need help doing. And you trust this body because they're not just trying to like exploit you for money.
Right. Because I think that in a way, like there are kind of like the rights organizations, but those are really only to advocate for getting paid. They're not advocating
and no one is part of a union that does anything for them.
Exactly.
It's like all very old fashioned, a lot of the stuff. I think there's like a union that exists that just doesn't even accept hip hop as a genre of music. It's like from like the 50s or something.
I was gonna say, is this a union of like all white people?
I'm sure.
I was like, yeah, because I feel like, I mean, people are accountable kind of through the Whisper Network, and other than that, not really.
Yeah.
Ugh. So in a way, now you're a musician, an actor, and an advocate.
And also like, sorry, that just made me think, you know, someone there is going, no, we're not going to pay you, or we didn't account for this money, and then it gets chased and figured out by someone else. There's no repercussion for those people.
That's also
what there should be, you know, my manager currently works with a huge artist and continues to work and will continue to work and make money. And I think there should also be some kind of like, you get fucking fired and people go, that's someone I don't want to work with. Like, that's someone who shouldn't be employed and celebrated by the music industry. But
it's like when a lawyer gets debarred. It's kind of like, okay, if you can't practice law correctly,
if you steal,
take away your license.
You are not allowed to work in, like whatever that the equivalent of that is. But or it's just kind of like, again, they're taken off this official safety list. Audited list.
But then if people do choose to work with them, it's kind of like at their
you're
own
on
risk.
Your own, you're in the Wild West.
Yeah.
But you really should probably try and find someone from the union.
I love that idea. Because then you don't have to rely on, because I'm sure that like, you know, in a way the people who are working with your former manager are probably like, oh, well, maybe he'll do this to me. Maybe he won't. Maybe
they don't know.
Yeah. Because I think about, was it Amy Lee from Evanescence that like her manager stole an insane amount of money?
Oh my God. I'm sure. Rihanna? Leonard Cohen?
Yeah. And it's like if you don't hear about it, or if someone is dismissed, if you say like, oh, this person stole money, and people are like, oh, don't listen to them, they're just the artist.
Yeah, oh, she's crazy, she was on drugs, like blah, blah, blah. She was crying in my office. The amount of times I've heard that story about, especially female artists, but...
Well, and also, why are the people who you're profiting off of their emotional vulnerability and then gaslighting them for being emotionally vulnerable?
Right.
And you're like, excuse me, that's that's what makes all of this art.
Yeah.
And so now you're dinging me for having emotions.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely not enough, like, mental health care either in the industry.
yeah.
But,
Well, and especially
Probably
because you
isn't,
started in the industry when you were quite young.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. It's so mad to think of me being that young and all these, like, older men around. And not that I had I didn't have any sort of moments where I think, I mean, in my life, I have moments where I think, wow, can't believe that happened, or I was really wrong. In the music industry, it was more like, I can't believe no one was asking me how I was, or saying, you know, do you need time off? Do you need a therapist? Do you need a mentor? It was like, you're a donkey, we're making money. Keep going until you are so exhausted you can't sing, you keep it together. And I think that's like what happens. People get like rinsed, you know?
Ugh. Well, and then
dropping off fucking bags of drugs to like young people as well.
That I've heard about too. Where
Delivery
people,
of like drugs to the band at soundcheck, and you're like, you are a grown up.
Yeah, giving this to kids.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
Because I'm younger than those people were at the time when I was like seeing that.
Wow.
And I would never in my life send drugs to like a 20-year-old or 18-year-old or like be trying to get someone like fucked.
Wow.
I just wouldn't, because I'd be thinking I'm more responsible. I'm responsible for them in some way. I just think if there's like a younger, vulnerable person, I'm always really super aware that like they're so young and I'm not trying to intoxicate them.
Well, and you were talking about being on set, like feeling that sense of protection from the people around you and support, as
And
opposed to this
how
description.
professional the acting industry is too.
Yeah.
Like in the music industry, you're encouraged to be unprofessional. It's kind of like the rock star thing, you know,
Exactly.
like be fucked up, be on drugs, drink, you know.
But somehow stay on top of a record label to pay you all your money.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and you're like, excuse me, what?
Yeah.
Like, ugh. Because, I think that one of the great things about music is that you can, in a way, you can explore that kind of darkness, but you don't have to live that darkness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you can have protections against that darkness, but it sounds like they encourage it in a way.
I think so. I think they definitely have. I've seen that in my experience whenever that was going on. For me, it's like 2007, 2008. But I do think, I will say, like, on a positive, to sort of, you know, end it on a positive note, that young people are really savvy, and I do feel like there's less culture of that going on, because I think young people are sort of just more savvy than they just keep getting more street smart or something. They seem a bit more like less inclined to be wanting to. It's not just about partying, it's not just about getting fucked up, it's not about doing that every night. There's a lot of smart young people.
I do see that. Like, I work with teenagers sometimes. I'm like, spoiler alert, also a therapist. Like,
maybe there's just a lot more access to information from a younger age, so you're kind of learning more.
Yeah, you're learning how to collate that faster.
Yeah.
Talk,
Especially
like,
now there's a record of everything as well. It seems more dangerous for people.
That is true, that now, like,
it can affect your future jobs and, you know.
There's like the surveillance now almost of so many things that you do. Yeah, when people are like, oh, I looked at their socials.
Yeah, ugh. Oh my God, so horrible.
I'm so glad that like Facebook and Insta did not exist when I was that age.
Thank God.
It would be just a record of me looking terrified.
But just too much pressure as well, and like
to have to also, you were talking about, and I found this interesting too, and you were like, oh, like all the media presence that comes with putting out an album, because you have to put across an image, and in a way it's really fun to think of visuals that match an album, but it's not fun to have to craft almost like a false persona.
It's not fun to have to do it every day.
No.
3 times a day, or like you know, it's not fun to do it in the interim when you have to like try and keep up engagement. I mean, it's just fucking annoying. Like, it's also not fun that a selfie is the only thing people care about, is like the only thing the algorithm gets attention from is like a picture.
Is a picture of your face. And that's what I wonder if it actually is, and I'd love to study this, like, is it the algorithm, is it an interaction, or is it the algorithm training people to only like faces?
Yeah, and then that's kind of creating this weird you know, experience where anything that happens, if there's like, you know, these weird moments where there's like a terrorist attack in Paris or something, for example, and it's like a picture of, you post a picture of yourself when you were in Paris, and you're like, Paris means so much to me, and when I was in Paris, blah 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 blah, and I'm just so sad, and like it's actually weird that we now automatically team a picture of ourselves to get any message across.
Yes.
It's like creating this distorted, like...
Well, and it's placing
I don't
yourself in front of the narrative instead of focusing on the narrative of... It's like a false empathy.
Yeah, or you feel like you have to
star.
post something because if you don't, you're ignoring it. And it's kind of like...
Right, it's like, of course we know that
true
travesties
either.
are horrible without posting a Facebook status about how we know travesties are horrible.
Yeah. But it's
Like-
there's like a woke warrior kind of,
Yes.
you know...
Yes. When you said that, it reminded me of like with like Notre Dame, that everyone started posting their selfies from Notre Dame, and you're like, yes, we know lots of
It's
people
like
have been at Notre Dame.
It's like a joke.
Like,
It's
yeah.
so weird.
yeah, and
It's
you're
so
like,
weird.
and especially when you're juggling, I meant to ask you, like, I was like, you're juggling a lot of things, especially like emotionally juggling, having to do like being a character consistently as well as then being you as a musician. Like, what's your downtime? Like, do you have downtime?
I don't have a lot of downtime, but I also have 2 dogs.
Yay!
I have a dog, and we just rescued another dog, a puppy husky that was running in the road.
What?
I think there's some weird shitty breeder that lives near me because I've rescued 2 huskies within the month.
No.
And
I mean, I'm glad you rescued them, but also like...
But now we've taken on this second dog, and in general, my dog Stella, who I rescued when I first came here, like off both of them, I've gotten off the street, and I just find that is really important. I mean, I do like to take on multiple projects at one time because I enjoy that. I love being busy. I love creating. I love working. So I tend to like take on a lot. And then in the sort of interim periods, you know, I have a dog.
Puppies.
And that's a lot of work as well. And there's just always stuff to be kind of, I just feel there's always something going on, you know. It's like, I don't know, like what my daily, you know, we were saying before, like, what does your day look like?
Yeah, what does your
it's
day
like
look like?
very varied from today I like got up, worked out, walked the dogs, trained the new puppy, came here, doing a podcast, going to my manager's later, working on a pitch deck. Like, there's different things going on. And then other days I'm like in the studio all week, finishing the album, sending mixes, whatever. Like, you know, there's like the life just kind of...
It takes a lot of different directions.
There's a lot of different... And I like that. I like juggling things. I feel like I function best when I have a lot on my plate. When there's space, I get a bit like, oh.
I'm the same way where when
I'll
someone's
get
like,
really delayed doing this then. And
Yes.
be like...
there's always a way to like fill that space. If you do have that space, like when someone's like, oh, you know, like sit and do nothing. I actually sometimes need to practice doing that.
Yeah.
Like,
definitely.
It's like...
And I like watching TV and I like cooking, and I feel like I have like managed to get myself to also like these grounded things, from picking up dog shit to doing laundry and like buying groceries and actually cooking, and I'm vegan, so I like think a lot about what I eat, and those things really help me, I think, that build a routine and build stability, which my life didn't have for my entire adult life up until I was about 28. It was just touring, and that can put you into these like weird unhealthy patterns where you have to suddenly go. I remember having a thought where I just realised that this idea of a future that I envision for myself isn't just going to happen. I'm not going to wake up one day and be like,
I live in a house with a dog.
you know, whatever it is that you want, like, it doesn't just come. You have to work for it. And that's obvious to me when it comes to ambition or drive or career. But I was also suddenly aware that my personal life, you know, what do I do in those in-betweens without having a meltdown because I'm not on tour, or, you know, when it's not just doing 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Well, and you were used to being shuffled around and having all that adrenaline and dopamine go.
Yeah, so it was really hard to not have it. And I realised I had to learn how to be okay with it, and I had to learn how to create the life that I wanted to have when I wasn't on tour. Because I know how to tour.
How did you learn how to do that? Because I could imagine.
It was very difficult.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
It was very
because you'd been,
difficult.
that really informed like your entire like early adulthood.
Yeah, I think like also acting and getting glow gave me so much discipline. Because when I'm on glow and I have my call times at 4 a.m, I have to be there at 4 a.m, and I was so late for I mean, I still am late for everything.
Story
But
of my life, yes.
there's
Continue.
like a discipline that I have to like hammer into myself for glow that I think has helped me in loads of ways. And you know, I don't really like, I don't drink anymore. And I'm not sober. I'm not like, I didn't really have a problem with drinking. I've had a lot of boyfriends that have had addiction problems. And I think as musicians, we know a lot of addicts.
Yeah.
So I gave up drinking when I started training for Glow because I wanted to become a serious athlete, and I just like didn't want the thought of a hangover or like even
Being hungover in wrestling sounds like a nightmare.
that would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
And also I just thought I want to take this seriously and be really athletic, and I've never done that in my life. So I'm just going to not drink. I'm going to try to be really healthy. And then we started filming, and I just thought, for vanity's sake, I won't drink because my skin will be better. It won't be puffy. So that's good. Then we finished right before Christmas, and I thought, wow, I've never done Christmas sober as an adult.
Hey.
I've done like sober Christmas as a child, but you drink at Christmas. So it sort of became a little challenge, and I was like, I'll do December alcohol free. It was great.
Yeah.
And I was really enjoying it. I was just actually like, I didn't miss it as much as I thought. I was kind of surprised. I was like, oh wow, like had a couple of nights where I was like, oh, I'd really like a glass of wine or something. But I actually felt really good about it. And then I had a tour coming up in February, and I thought this is really important for me to do this tour with no alcohol, because this one thing that I do that I care about so much, like that's so associated with alcohol, it'll be so great to prove to myself like I don't need that.
I was going to say, to shift that perspective, to challenge your habit. To be like, what's it like?
Like I don't need my thing that I do before going on stage, like having a drink for confidence. Like I can just walk out and do that. And I'd like to prove that to myself. And I did, and I felt good about that. And then I just said, I'll just do a year, because that's kind of epic to like not drink for a year.
Yes.
And then after that, I just said, well, okay, now I'm really liking this, and I don't really want to drink again. And if I do, I'll just do it. If I really want to have a drink one day, like I'm lucky that my life's not going to fall apart if I have a drink, because I'm not an addict.
Right.
So I'm lucky that I have that. But also, like, I really like the clarity and the space. I don't know. It's just something about being really healthy that I really like.
Well,
it's so weird.
And
I just feel good. I'm like, why do I like that?
It feels good to feel good.
But it really does, and I don't. It's every now and then I think. Like, I went to Florida recently because my fucking friend moved to Florida because she's working for WWE. I was like, right, now I have to go on holiday in Florida.
Very humid.
Yeah, but I was like, oh my god, I'm on holiday. I want to drink wine. That would be so fun. And then my other friend was like, don't drink tonight because we're driving tomorrow, and you can't be like hungover for the first day in ages because of like, and we're going on this big drive. And I was like, fine.
Yes.
And then I just like go through these tiny little moments of wanting it, and then the next day I'm like, actually, I'm glad I didn't, because I'm like,
you feel good?
Yeah, I feel good. And I'm glad I didn't have any like toxin in me today.
And I love that also that you value that you notice that you feel good, and also that you're like, oh, I actually deserve to feel this way, so I'm going to keep it up.
And I also decided that if I do drink again, I won't do it on tour ever again. Because we're not better at our jobs when we're drunk. It's so obvious.
Shocking information.
It's so obvious. No one else arrives at work and says, I need a bottle of whiskey or I need a thingy of beer. And if I don't get it, I'm going to fucking kick off.
I'll never forget.
Oh my God. Why are we encouraged to do that?
A friend of mine said one time that her partner at the time had trouble with meth use, and he's like, well, it's just that I have to use it for my job. And she said, you install car radios.
Oh my God.
Like,
yeah.
So it's very true. Much like you do not, in fact, need meth to install a car radio.
You don't need alcohol to do. And I get people have huge confidence issues, right? But it comes from that. Getting on stage can be really scary, but then it's also learned behaviors.
Yes.
Like you go on tour with someone and they drink all the time, and you're like, cool, we party every night.
What we do.
And it does feel like a celebration, and like there is alcohol around, and I'm gonna participate in that because like, why wouldn't you?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, this experience taught me that like, I'm better. I am more in control. What I do is actually about connection.
Well, then it's about like...
So like numbing that connection seems counterintuitive to like what I'm trying to achieve at the gig.
Right.
And this isn't a party. This is my job.
Well,
and so I owe it to the audience to be the best performer I can be.
And that's like respect for yourself too.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
And my work. And so I think like for me, like learning that has been huge.
I think other artists hopefully hear that message and are like, oh, I might give that a go.
It's been really great, and I think there's a really unhealthy partying. It's so fucking cool. Like, I'm so fucked up. I can drink so much. I'm crazy. I'm just like such a crazy motherfucker. Like, yeah, everyone is. It's not really that cool. Like,
You're
there's like everyone
can
drink alcohol and throw up and like
Mm-hmm.
carry on and with their day. Like,
Yeah.
it's not actually that. Like, it is when we're like really young, we think that's probably the coolest thing ever. But
Well, and it's also
it's
rarefied
not.
in a way.
It's just, I don't know. I'm not totally anti-alcohol culture, because I did enjoy drinking when I drank, but I think being in music, it's like I see the toxicness that can come of like repetitive, like, you know, a fan comes to a gig and wants to take a shot with you, and they go home and they get on with their working week, and that was their like night out.
Right.
You go to the next town and a fan in the next town wants to take a shot with you, and then you go to the next town and a fan wants to take a shot with you, and that's like every day. And then on your day off you spiral, and because you're
because you're like
feeling like shit because you're drinking different water every day, you're eating food, your belly's like, what's happening? And then you're also getting toxins out, and it's like the more that we can do to like help ourselves in these really difficult you know, work environments where you feel quite unstable, your body's being shaken by the bus, or like you're staying in a shit motel with literally shit on the walls, you know, like there's all these things that we have to deal with, that like, if I can make it easier for myself, then maybe I should do that, because maybe I'll feel better and enjoy it more.
Well, and it goes back to the whole thing of like, we all are gonna suffer anyway.
Yeah.
There's already stuff that's gonna go wrong.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah.
Why make it worse on yourself? Like, why not make it slightly better?
I just love that I used to think that having a drink made me better, but it just made me feel a bit more confident or something. And it's also, I look at it as kind of like a little self-indulgent, selfish, to be like, I need to feel this, like this is my night. And it's like, actually, people paid to come and see you, and you're a performer. And at this stage, I've been doing this for 13 years. It's not my night every night. It's not.
Well, and it sounds like it's your shared night.
Yeah, and I am so proud of myself and in touch with myself now. When I play shows and I'm like, that was the fucking best show, then I'm like so aware of everything that I don't know.
You're embodied in it, and it almost sounded like when you were talking about like being in your character.
Yeah,
that it's like you're present for it.
Yeah, it's dedication to my art for me.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, I think, a thing that helps.
And it sounds like, because I was going to ask you what you would advise people in both music and acting. Like, if someone's like, I want to get into this field, what should I do? And it sounds like part of it is being present for it.
I think being really driven, being really ambitious, and like just having a like, you do have to have that sort of like go-getter attitude, as cheesy or cliche as that sounds. You kind of need that.
Well, I don't think anyone's going to be like, oh yes, I'm just going to find this person making music in their bedroom.
Yeah.
I'll just go to bedrooms and look for people making music.
Yeah. Although MySpace, that was kind of what happened.
Well, I was going to say, because like MySpace was like the like wild west of finding music, because it wasn't corporatized when people were getting big on MySpace.
That's why they shut it down, because they had no control.
Right.
It was the one time in the whole of existence of people that something, probably apart from like folk music, I guess, but like it just was just free, and kids choosing what was cool, and people having careers out of that. And you had so many different types of bands like coming out of that and having huge careers because of it.
Exactly, because that, I guess SoundCloud kind of approximated that for a while, but then it became kind of uniform what became big on SoundCloud.
Yeah.
But like having it be curated in a way by people who are actually listening to it, as opposed to someone who is like a tastemaker, like now it's like all like playlists and things like that.
Yeah, and you have to like get on the playlist.
Yeah. And no one's going to seek someone out. You have to put yourself forth for someone to find you for a playlist. So it's like... Yeah. Oh man, I was just like,
MySpace was so cool.
I never thought I'd be like, pour one out for MySpace.
But it really was, kids being in charge.
Yeah.
Young people picked.
Exactly. Yeah.
Crazy.
And it was derided for a way when people became like MySpace famous. Mm-hmm. But I think that it was legitimate, because actually it was fame built on people actually engaging with them.
Yeah. Yeah, there was no one in charge of that.
Yeah, instead of now where it's like you can like buy Instagram likes, you can buy engagement, you can buy like...
So stupid and weird.
Can you imagine being like, I'm going to buy myself 50,000 likes? Like, I would like some validation today.
I'm going to purchase it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go to the internet store and purchase some validation.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, like go-getterness, like what?
Yeah. I guess just belief in self. I think like working on things that matter to you, working on your songs, working on your music.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the imagery thing I think is so hard on young people.
Yeah.
It's like I see people trying so hard all the time with imagery, and I'm like, oh man, I'm kind of glad. I'm really glad that although I'm part of it now, that like I came up in this time when I was like, I had like 6 photos on MySpace and I changed them when I did a gig. Maybe.
Yes.
People weren't about the image, but now the
Right.
beauty industry seems to be like taking over, and it's like you just need to like create images all the time that are just so beautiful and perfect.
Yeah, and it's like if you're a visual artist, that's great, but if you're not,
I think you need to like really people still connect with songs and a live show. So do gigs, like work on songs and like say yes to things and try things out, and don't sign things, and don't trust people, don't trust anyone until someone has proven themselves to you to be trustworthy. And you have to be like, you do have to be kind of everything. You have to be savvy and a businesswoman and an artist and vulnerable. And like, although that sounds really intimidating, I think that like you can like not know how to do all of it and learn as you go along as well. Because I definitely did.
I think being open to learning.
Yeah, but just don't let the bastards get you down. Like, that's what my mum always said to me. And it's like, they can't win, and you can go through a lot of shit and get back up.
There you go. I like that. I think that's a brilliant way to end the
That's
podcast.
the close, yeah.
That's the close. You can go through a lot of shit
and
get back up again.
Surprising.
Exactly.
Surprising how covered in shit you can be.
Right.
And still stand.
And still get back up. You're really weighed down.
Yeah. You're thoroughly weighed down by actual shit. And yet you can still stand, believe
Stand
me.
up.
Yeah.
We've really covered it all in this podcast. Excrement, the abyss.
Yeah.
There's a crow literally squawking outside. Amazing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, Kate, thank you so
And
much for
the
joining
snacks.
us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode of Why Not Both. Thank you again to Kate Nash for the fantastic interview, and to Under the Radar magazine for all of your support. Please make sure to like us and subscribe to us on your preferred podcast platform. And you can find us on social media on Instagram and Twitter. We are at WNB the podcast. Thank you again, and I'm really excited to see you next week.